Hello, I'm Greg Ramirez, Emergency Manager for Clackamas Fire. Today I'm joined by Justin Ross. Justin is the Community Capacity Specialist for Multnomah County's Office of Emergency Management. How'd I do?
Okay, you did great, Greg.
Fantastic.
Did great.
It's just getting the name right that's half the battle for me. Justin is, I just learned that he's the chair of the Regional Disaster Sanitation Program. Is that program?
Regional Disaster Sanitation Project.
Project. Well, it's easy enough for me to remember because he calls it the Poo and Pee Project. That's it sounds funny, and it's probably a subject that's either difficult to discuss or funny to discuss. But when a large natural disaster occurs, it will be one that we seriously have to address. So, tell me about the project. What's its focus?
So, Greg, a couple of years ago, emergency managers and public health officials from across the region, so we're talking about 5 different counties, Washington County, Clackamas County, Multnomah County, Clark County, and Columbia County, got together to discuss an issue that we know is pretty important, but we haven't spent a lot of time talking about historically, which is what to do with your human waste post-disaster.
Exactly. Well, and it's one that I would have never thought of until I responded to Hurricane Katrina. And we found out that after about 10 days, a porta potty will only take so much.
Right. Yeah. And we're really concerned here about a catastrophic earthquake. So we anticipate there'll be a lot of damage to our infrastructure, including waste treatment plants and also the sewer lines that get the waste to the treatment plant. So we took that into consideration, and we try to come up with a way that's easy to message about and something that's easy for people to do on how to manage their waste post-event. So if you can't use your toilet, you can only do so much, and then you have a problem on your hands.
That's right.
That's right.
So in Hurricane Katrina, we went to digging slit trenches. Mm-hmm. What are some of the concerns around just using a trench in your yard?
Right. So we're asking people first to think about using the twin bucket system. I have a couple of buckets here. The reason why is because we can manage this waste a little bit easier.
Sure.
And not everybody can go out and dig a trench latrine. So if you can, use the twin bucket system. So one bucket is designed for pee, the other bucket is for poo. The bucket that's for poo, we double bag that bucket.
Okay.
So after you're done using it about halfway full, you want to close it up, and then you want to store it in a place where animals and other people and bugs can't get into it until a little bit further down the line after the disaster, when we have transportation systems and we can come and haul it off.
Some of the debris management people will start to address that.
Right. So the poo, what the technique is that you go to the bathroom there and you use some carbon material. So for instance, leaves or old newspapers or whatever it is that you have.
What does that do?
So what that does is it helps absorb some of the moisture that's in the poo, so it's not quite as heavy.
Okay.
And so you go to the bathroom. Then you, whatever, maybe reading material you're using, you say, I'm done with this.
Right.
You throw it in there, and then you continue doing that until you're about halfway up on the poo, about this full.
Okay.
And then you want to take the double bag and then again put it into place where it's secure. On the pee side, you can pee in the bucket, and then you can dispose of that relatively easily. So you can just pour that out into
So no liner in this bucket?
No liner in this bucket, only in the poo bucket. And we want you to separate the two because pee and poo together, there's more possibility for spreading vectors that way.
Okay.
And also, it's a lot heavier. So it's lighter if we just keep the poo stuff, and poo is unsanitary where pee is relatively safe for you to dispose of.
So I guess we didn't do that in Hurricane Katrina. Perhaps we weren't doing the right thing. I know that we had people come around and tell us, establish where we needed to dig our trenches. And you've said to establish a point where you're going to deposit these bags. What are your concerns about where you put them? Yeah,
so there's you touched on 2 really important things here. So on the twin bucket system side, we want you to put them in receptacles or places where animals can't get into them, and that they're away from where the people are going to have contact with them. On the latrine side, so if let's say you live in a rural community, you have a place with a large yard, or you have a couple acres of property, the twin bucket system may not be the most effective one for you. And digging a latrine is fine. You just want to make sure you're doing a couple things. One is that you want it to be at least 2 feet deep and 2 feet wide. You want it to be 100 feet away from any water. So if you're digging your latrine and then all of a sudden you come across some water, you want to move 100 feet away from there because we don't want that stuff getting into the water
Okay.
systems. And then you want to make sure that you're 10 feet away from your home and from a property line.
Okay.
And then if you use it, then after you get it about halfway full, so about a foot deep, then you want to cover it back up with another foot of the soil that you dug out. And then you want to mark it so that later on you can figure out where they're at, so you make sure that you're dealing with it appropriately.
So 100 feet away from a water source, 10 feet away from your house or a property line. And the reason for that is I don't want to stack my waste against your property line.
Right.
Just
We
as a
want to
courtesy.
we want to be good neighbors, and we also want to not get it too close to the house too, because there is a
Right.
chance that it can make its way onto other people's property, or
Okay.
it can make it up into your home too.
Okay, so just being a good neighbor.
Yeah.
Okay, so I understand that our sewer system is probably one of the most fragile utilities we have. What if I'm on my own septic system?
Yeah. So septic system, there's two different things can happen. One is everything will continue working fine, and
Okay.
if you have a pump on your system though, then your system isn't going to be working correctly if there's no electricity.
Right.
But if you aren't on a pump system, you can go out and do your own self-inspection, and if you see that it's working okay, then you can continue using that.
What are some of the things I'm looking for?
So when you're doing your own self-inspection on your sewer system, you want to walk around where the drain field is at.
Right.
You want to look for some separation of ground as if it's separating from where your drain field is at. You want to make sure that there's no additional moisture there that's not commonly there.
Okay.
You want to make sure that in your home that you don't have stuff coming back into your plumbing.
Right.
And so if those things aren't happening, you can use that system safely, but eventually you will want to have a professional come in and do another check on it.
Okay. And so if I see any of those, then I'm going to revert to either the latrine system or the two-bucket system.
Yes, exactly.
Real good. Okay. So I understand that in many situations following a disaster, it wasn't the disaster necessarily that killed a lot of people. It was the sanitation issues. What are some of, besides taking these precautions, what are the other sanitary things that we need to consider?
Yeah. The other thing we have to do is make sure that we're still practicing good hygiene.
Okay.
So in a disaster type environment, if you have water, you can create a little wash basin that you can wash your hands with. You want to use soap and water. It's not
Okay.
going to be hot water, but you want to use lots of soap and water.
Okay.
And if that's not available to you, then you can use hand sanitizer that has 60% alcohol in it.
60%. Okay, so yes, it's settle the argument for me because I hear that hand sanitizer is good. It's not as good. Is it as good as soap and water?
No, the preference is to use soap and water, but
Okay.
in the absence of soap and water, then the hand sanitizer is
With
the
at
next
least
best
60%
thing.
alcohol. Real good. Well, a lot of things to consider. Again, a subject that you may not have addressed or even thought about addressing, but it's one that's certainly going to become very important should we have a disaster like the Cascadia subduction zone earthquake. Justin, thanks for taking the time to come in and visit and talk about this subject. I look forward to talking with you again as we go through the month of September, National Preparedness Month. Again, I'm Greg Ramirez, the Emergency Manager for Clackamas Fire.